Bum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum bum ba-dum bum bum ba-da-dum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum bum ba-dum bum bum.
Welcome to Everyday Musicality, the podcast in which we discuss all things related to Gordon's music learning theory and how it can help unlock the inner musician that lives inside of all of us. I'm your host, Heather Shouldice, music educator and faculty member for the Gordon Institute for Music Learning. In this episode, I talk about setting intentions for our teaching in the new year. Hello and welcome to the Everyday Musicality podcast, and Happy New Year! It's hard to believe it's 2022, but here we are. I hope that you're staying healthy and that you had a chance to rest and celebrate the holidays. If you entered the New Year's giveaway from GIA Publications, I'll be announcing the winner at the end of today's episode. GIA generously sponsors this podcast by contributing all of the materials that I give away. And they're also the publishers of my book, Weaving It All Together, a practical guide to implementing Gordon's music learning theory in the elementary general music program, as well as the book that I co-authored with Jill Reese and Jennifer Bailey called Q&A for MLT, General Music Perspectives on Music Learning Theory. This podcast is also sponsored by the Gordon Institute for Music Learning, who covers the fees for the website. GIML's got lots of exciting things coming up in the new year, one of which will be a virtual workshop on racial literacy on February 16th. This event is free for GIML members and open to anyone for a small registration fee. I'll link to that in the show notes if you'd like more information. Other than this support from GIA and GIML, I receive no compensation for producing this podcast. It's just my labor of love. So if this podcast has been helpful for you and you'd like to support the work I do in creating the content, you can do so at patreon.com/everydaymusicality. I have lots of MLT-related episodes on a variety of topics planned for the first few months of 2022. But as we kick off the new year, I wanted to focus today on setting intentions for our teaching this year. I am a big planner and goal setter. I love taking some time every December to reflect on the year that's wrapping up and start thinking about what I want to accomplish in the next year and what I want the next year to be like. I do this both for my personal life and for my professional life. For example, one of my personal goals for 2022 is to read at least 52 books, and one of my professional goals is to submit a proposal to GIA for a new book I want to write. Some goals that you might set are achievement goals, like the ones I just mentioned, where you're focused on accomplishing a specific thing. Other goals are habit goals, where you're focused on doing something on a regular basis. Maybe it's every day or a certain number of days each week. This is more about building that habit into your life. Goals might revolve around a certain intention, a bigger picture aim that you're striving for, and then you might set a specific goal or goals that will help you live that intention. So I thought today I would talk about some ideas for setting an intention for our music teaching in the new year, and maybe one of these ideas will spark an interest in you. One possible intention you could set for the new year is to infuse more play into your teaching. There's a lot of evidence that supports the importance of play, not just for children, but for adults too. Play has many benefits. Play can relieve stress, which I'm guessing many of us could use right now. And this is because play is fun and it can trigger the release of endorphins, which are those hormones produced in our bodies that increase our sense of well-being. Play can also improve brain function and encourage our creativity and imagination. In addition, play can help improve our social skills and our connection to others, something that I think is especially important given the isolation many of us and our students have endured over the past 2 years. I'll link in the show notes to a book about play in case you're interested in reading more. So you might set an intention to incorporate more play into your teaching, both for your students and for yourself. You can incorporate a game to accomplish a musical goal. For example, I don't remember where I got this idea, but my students have always loved the forbidden pattern game. You give them a pattern that is forbidden, and the student's job is to echo every pattern except that forbidden pattern. So, if your goal was for students to sing patterns in major tonality with solfege, your forbidden pattern might be sol, mi, do. You would model that pattern for the students and maybe have them sing it a few times to help them remember it. And then when the game officially starts, they are forbidden to sing that pattern. So you would sing various tonal patterns with solfege, gesturing for the students to echo each one, and periodically interject that forbidden pattern and gesture to students to see if you can trick them into singing it. To raise the stakes, you could keep score. Like, for every pattern they sing that isn't the forbidden pattern, the class would earn a point. But if they sing any of the forbidden pattern, you would get 5 points. There are lots of other ways you could turn musical skills and concepts into games. Another idea for infusing more play into your teaching could be through imaginative play. Take any tune and think of a scenario that kids might think is fun, and then pretend to act out various things related to that scenario while singing the tune. For example, you could pretend to bake cookies. You could pretend to put ingredients into a bowl and then stir it as you sing the song, which would encourage continuous fluid movement. Then you could pretend to dump the dough out onto the counter and roll it flat with a rolling pin as you sing, moving forward and backward to the beat of the song. Next, you could sing a tonal pattern in the context of the song while pretending to cut the dough with a cookie cutter and ask your students to do the same thing back to you. Then you could have the students pretend to be the timer and sing a resting tone ostinato on tick, tock, to the beat while swaying side to side as you sing the song. Finally, you can pretend to put frostings, sprinkles, or other decorations on the cookies as you sing the song, and then take a big bite. Ah, yum, 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 yum. Other ways of infusing your teaching with play could be using puppets, props, or other manipulatives to elicit vocal responses or movement, like hula hoops or streamers. Another possible intention you could set for the new year is to provide your students with a richer tonal and rhythmic diet. If you tend to mostly use repertoire in major tonality and duple meter, you could make it a point to incorporate more tonalities and meters into your teaching. If this is new to you, maybe you just start with one new tonality or meter at first and learn a song in that tonality or meter that you could use in your classroom or studio. If you're ready for something more, you might choose a different tonality or meter to focus on each month. Maybe Phrygian February or Mixolydian March? You could make it a goal to learn a certain number of new tunes in that tonality or write your own tunes in that tonality and incorporate them into activities in your classes or lessons. Back in episode 6, I did an episode called Taste of Tonalities, in which I gave an overview of the tonalities most commonly used in MLT-based teaching. I'll link to that in the show notes, as well as the individual episodes I've devoted to each tonality so far. If you're feeling pretty confident about the variety of tonalities and meters you use in your teaching, maybe you set an intention of incorporating a greater variety of styles and genres into your teaching. This leads to the next idea. Another possible intention you could set for the new year is to amplify your students' voices in your classroom or studio. I don't mean literal sound amplification. I mean giving students more of a voice in their own learning and connecting learning to students' experiences. This could involve including music that your students are interested in, or maybe music from your students' own cultural backgrounds. You could do a music sharing project in which you invite students to take turns sharing a song or recording of their choice. Or you could have your students complete a survey on the kinds of music they like, maybe their favorite songs or their favorite performers, and then incorporate that music into your teaching. You can find something of educational value in any piece of music, provided it's appropriate for school. Maybe you have students sing the resting tone of the music whenever you pause the recording, move to the macrobeat and microbeat, or maybe you show students where a particular rhythm pattern or tonal pattern happens in the song. Another way of giving your students more voice is to let them make decisions about how they're going to interact with the music. Do you want to sing the melody or the chord roots? Do you want to move to the macro beat or tap the rhythmic ostinato? So giving students options for how they are going to make music in the class or in the lesson. This also leads into the next possible intention you could set for the new year, which could be to give your students more ownership of their music making. There are a lot of ways you can encourage your students' musical independence and empower them to take ownership in making music. One way to start is by incorporating individual response, providing opportunities for students to do things in solo. This could be brief and short, like singing the resting tone in solo or echoing short rhythm patterns. Another idea would be to have students take turns singing a repeated pattern of a song in solo. For example, the song Little Wind from Jump Right In Book 1 has the pattern Little Wind, at the beginning of each of the 4 phrases of the song. Once students are familiar with the song, you could pass a ball or another toy to individual students, having that individual who you pass the thing to sing the "Little Wind" pattern in solo, and then pass it back to you as the class sings the rest of the phrase so that you can pass it on to the next individual. Another great way of encouraging students' ownership of their music making is to never sing with them. Once they know the song, stop singing it and give them the responsibility of singing. In addition to building their independence, this has the added bonus of giving you an opportunity to rest your voice or to add a harmony part. One more really powerful way of giving students ownership of their music making is by incorporating more improvisation and composition. This lets students make their own musical decisions and shows them that they have the power to decide how the music should go. That music doesn't just come from the teacher or from a recording or from notation. Music can come from inside of them. In my last episode of 2021, I talked about ways of bridging to the creativity improvisation level from the oral level of the skill learning sequence. I'll link to that episode in the show notes in case you'd like some ideas to start trying to do more improvisation and composition with your students. Also, the ideas of student voice and musical independence came out in the themes in my dissertation research, which was looking at an elementary music teacher who believes all of her students are musical and seeing how this belief came through in her teaching and the classroom environment she created. I'll link to my dissertation in the show notes in case you'd like to read some of the ways that this teacher encouraged student voice and musical independence in her classroom. Side note, she was an MLT practitioner. Finally, one other possible intention you could set for the new year, one that many of us might really need as we head toward year 3 of a global pandemic, is to focus on taking care of yourself in the new year. If you're feeling tired and you're starting to burn out, it's okay to scale back your efforts in your teaching and spend that time and energy on you. When the pandemic is over and you're in a better place, you can focus on moving forward in your teaching. But for now, there's nothing wrong with saying, I'm going to do the minimum I need to get by at work right now so that I can nurture and care for myself. Maybe you can set some boundaries, like turning off your email or your laptop at a certain time each day. If it works for you, maybe you can say, I'm not going to do any work while I'm at home. For those of us who tend to give and let work seep into every aspect of our lives, it can really help to create those hard boundaries so that you have a firm rule to follow. Once you've found a way to scale back on work and carve out more time for yourself, you can decide what might be a rejuvenating way of spending that time. Maybe you find a new hobby or a hobby you used to enjoy but haven't spent time on in a while. That's actually one of my goals for this year. Each month, I'm going to choose one thing that I'm going to spend time on for fun most days of the week, even if it's just for 10 minutes. I've started a list of the things I want to devote each month to, and one of them is cross-stitch. I know that's super nerdy, but I used to cross-stitch when I was a kid, and I just find it really soothing. It gives me something to do with my hands, and I love seeing the colors start coming together on the fabric. So during 1 month of 2022, I'm going to spend some time every day cross-stitching, or some time on most days. I'm the kind of person who doesn't do well with the don't break the chain strategy of motivation because I'm too much of a perfectionist, and I'll stop doing it altogether once I miss one day. So I'm going to do it most days. Do whatever works for you. You could also ask yourself, what are some other ways you can take care of yourself this year? Maybe it's getting more sleep. I listen to a podcast called Happier by Gretchen Rubin, who does a lot of writing on happiness and good habits, and she says that going to bed early is the way grown-ups sleep in. So maybe you give yourself a bedtime each night. Set an alarm on your phone, and when it goes off, you start getting ready for bed. You could set a bedtime routine that will get you in the mindset of winding down and getting ready for sleep. It's worth putting some conscious thought into what can help you take better care of yourself. What do you need, and how can you help that happen? So those are just a few examples of intentions you could set for the new year. I hope it was helpful to think about how you might set an area of focus for the new year in your teaching or in taking care of yourself. And now it's time to announce the winner of the GIA giveaway of a free copy of the Jump Right In Book 1 Teacher's Edition and CD set. Whenever I do a giveaway, I put all the names of the folks who entered into a spreadsheet and assign each a number, and then I use a random number generator to choose the winner. And the winner of the Jump Right In 1 Teacher's Edition and CD set is Emily Hyde. Emily, email your preferred mailing address to everydaymusicality@gmail.com, and I'll get those materials out to you right away. In the meantime, if you have questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes, please get in touch. You can email me or send me a voice memo at everydaymusicality@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. Thanks for listening, and let's keep musicking every day.